something that is really personal to me, and anybody who has taken the opportunity to listen to the first season of our one of our other podcasts, my Mormon History podcast, knows that something that's really important to me is to tell real history
Hmm.
and not whitewash it, not only share the rose-colored glasses
Yeah.
version of history.
No
No
embellishments. Yeah.
embellishment, don't change it to make people look bad
Censorship.
or to make people look better than they were or not as
Hmm.
bad as they were.
Hmm.
Like to tell the real truth.
Yeah.
And a news story that really bothered me, and this was a couple weeks ago, it might have been even a month ago. A news story that really bothered me was out of Philadelphia, the house. So the White House was the residence of the President of the United States, what, from Madison on? I think it was just the third president on. It
Yeah.
wasn't the first or second. It wasn't, or maybe Adams moved into it. I don't know. I apologize.
Yeah.
But I know George Washington never lived in the White House. Maybe John Adams. Somebody
Hmm.
can correct me on that. But either way, George Washington lived in a particular house in Philadelphia when he was president of the United States. He never lived in the White House. And then, at least for part of his presidency, if not all of his presidency, John Adams also lived in that house.
Hmm.
And over the years, unlike many historical sites that still exist from that time period, there had been, like, the home had been ruined, or part of it had been demolished, or crumbled to bits, but there were
Hmm.
parts of the house that still existed. And then I believe it was like in the 1940s or 50s, it was kind of by the oversight of some construction person working somewhere, like it was ruined and
Hmm.
incorporated into another structure and
Hmm.
all of that. And it was maybe a couple years later, several years later, I'm not sure, but they were able to preserve at least part of that house. And there have been some markers at that historic site. There's kind of like this open pavilion or like courtyard kind of thing where people can go, and it's pretty, but they have these markers right around that talk about this being the location of the home where the first two presidents of the United States lived.
Hmm.
And in particular, there were some markers that talked about the enslaved individuals that George Washington brought with him from Mount Vernon to this home that served him
Hmm.
while he was president of the United States.
Hmm.
And several weeks ago, the Trump administration ordered for those
Yeah.
signs to be taken down, and that they didn't want, like that version of the story told,
Hmm.
or, whatever. And I want to read part of a Politico article, because so that has been a recurring pit for me for a long
Hmm.
time with our history in Mormonism. Just the way that Mormon history has been
Yeah.
whitewashed, that has bothered me for a
Yeah.
long time.
We were always and only taught the 20% of the story that could be deemed uplifting.
Yes, and positive and faith promoting and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Whereas what we needed was the whole story so that we could understand intergenerational trauma, so that we could understand the DNA that we inherited,
Yeah.
so that we could truly understand who we were. But
Hmm.
with the corporate church whitewashing all of that, it
Yeah.
very much caused us to not know the full story. Now, you
Hmm.
knew more earlier than I did because you stepped out of Mormonism long before I did. And really, this has been a process for me. So many stories I didn't know until I
Yeah.
stepped out of the church. For goodness, at this point, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. So this has just been a really important thing to me
Hmm.
because it was really disorienting stepping
Yeah.
into Mormonism and
Yeah.
realizing how much I had been lied to.
Yeah.
And so I feel really strongly about this, that sure, preserve that plantation and whatever Southern community, but you better talk about the enslaved people at that plantation, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be used to, I don't know, earn money, like people holding their weddings there. No, it needs to be a museum.
Yeah.
It needs to be about the people that suffered, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so that's
Mhm.
really important to me. So when I heard about this story, it just made me sick that they had
Mhm.
removed the markers talking about the enslaved people. We
Yeah.
put George Washington on a pedestal. The man had hundreds and hundreds of slaves.
Yeah.
And that isn't to take away from the good that he did in regard to just the founding of our country, but it does not serve us today
Mhm.
to only look at the good stuff. Like those people that he enslaved were people.
There are
They
people.
had they we should acknowledge them for who
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
We should honor them for
Yeah.
who they were.